welcome back to We Are the Batman. My name's Mike.
And this is Matthew.
This is your Batman show where we talk all things Batman, whether it's news, whether it's just us looking for something Batman related to talk about. We're here. How are you, Matthew?
I'm doing well. Got a, one of those days of just chill. And then, of course, you can't just chill. So then you realize like, oh yeah, podcast today. I should research things.
Yeah, you probably know some things. Well, speaking of research and getting and learning some things, that's actually what we're doing today. But we're learning about you because last week you interviewed me about me, and I'm flipping the script. And today we're going to learn about Matthew and his long history. Not that long. He's not that old of being a Batman fan.
I mean, depending on what your definition of old is, I'm pretty up there.
I saved it there in the end. Don't take this away from me. So, so let's pull kind of like what you did last week. I'm gonna start off with some rapid fire questions here real quick, and then we'll get into some of the more deep dive stuff.
Sure.
So right off the bat, favorite Batsuit?
Cinematic or comics?
Favorite Batsuit?
Favorite Batsuit? The Neil Adams Batman suit is the one I love the most.
Neil Adams Batman.
That is the gray blue with the yellow oval. Okay. I know it's kind of cheesy in a way, but like that is the suit that I want to see them make live action. Now I know it's virtually impossible because no one's built like that, but I think that color scheme, even if you darkened it up a bit, because not until the late 90s was Batman's costume ever black.
Right.
Like,
yeah, it was kind of the dramatic thing.
I mean, you had a little bit of that with the original stuff, but like for the most part, all through like the 50s, 60s, 70s, most the 80s into the 90s, he had that blue and gray, which is why I've always kind of said like, I don't like the fact that Batman traditionally in film isn't an all black costume.
Yeah. And I'm glad we're kind of getting away from that, it seems like, too, finally. Yes. Because Ben Affleck's was gray and the cape and that were black, but they were more of just a dark gray, and Pattinson's is a lot more different as well. So yeah, I think we're finally getting away from that.
Well, and to me, what it does is when he's dressed in all black, it looks cool at night, but it looks ridiculous if he's walking around during the day.
Well, because whenever you see those like shots of him in the light, whether it's back in the cave or something, you realize how just kind of ridiculous it actually looks.
Yeah, and that's where, and I also like the other thing too, and when you look at some of those old comics, is like he was just wearing a cloth costume. The more armor, the more tech, the more bulletproof he gets, the more it's just a dude who could afford to buy the outfit. So the idea of it just being cloth, even though, I know it doesn't technically make sense. The more advanced things go, the more people, everybody can carry a gun. He probably would be bulletproof.
Yeah.
But again, like the as much as I cinematically probably like the Batman Begins suit very, very much, the idea that he's completely bulletproof, completely stab proof, well then why do you have any skills?
It's true. It's a good point.
Put your hands over your mouth and just run at people.
Pretty much. So then let me take you into, so what's your favorite movie?
I knew this was going to come. I think I still have to stay The Dark Knight as far as favorite Batman movie. Only because I think it is a slightly tighter movie than The Batman.
Okay. I mean, but it is shorter.
Yeah. I mean, The Batman is really good and I really like that world. But even I, being as much of a fan of it, I did have a moment of like, oh, we're still going? Okay, that's right. This hasn't been resolved yet. I didn't mind it, but I did have that like, oh, there's more. Whereas I think the first time I watched The Dark Knight, I was just blown away. There was no time of like what's happening? Why are we still here? It was just kind of like, oh, So that's, I think, why for me personally, when I think of like favorites, I also have to go back to how did I feel the moment I walked out of the theater.
Right.
And when I remember when I finished watching The Dark Knight, I was still very deep into thinking I was going to doing films and making films. I remember like leaving and calling my buddy and going like, yeah, I'm not going to make any movies anymore. I can never top that. I can never make anything
Right.
anywhere near as good as this. I'm done.
We always, all of us who have dabbled in filmmaking have had those moments where we go see a movie and we're like, you know what? Maybe I'm never gonna. I got nothing in me even close to this. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
So, who has been your favorite actor to portray Batman?
Here we go. I think I still have to give it to Kilmer. I still have to give it to Val Kilmer.
I will forever be perplexed at how much you love Val Kilmer as Batman.
I think he, in my opinion, is still the only person who ever played always Batman dressing up as Bruce Wayne. Portrayed it that way. I don't think anyone's portrayed it that way. It's been said that, but it hasn't been portrayed that. On the flip, I do have to say this about Pattinson. No one has ever been able to act through the cowl like he has, but he hasn't been Bruce Wayne yet. So
It's true. His
maybe
Bruce
if he
Wayne is
does,
still in development.
yeah. So you give me 2-3 more movies to simmer with him, maybe he comes back to the top. But yeah, now I'm not going to defend Batman Forever because most of that movie's crap. But the movie that Val Kilmer is making, I really want to see. Or the movie Val Kilmer thinks he's in when he's making that movie. I want to see that movie. That is not the movie Joel Schumacher was making.
No one's really sure what movie Joel Schumacher was trying to make. So in the mythos of Batman, who is your favorite member of Batman's Rogues Gallery? Who's your favorite Bat villain?
Ra's al Ghul, definitely Ra's al Ghul.
Okay,
Just because, just as smart, just as physically capable, and I think of any of the people in his various rogues gallery, he really should be working with him. And I like that. It's like there's just that 2-3 steps that Ra's al Ghul is willing to go that Batman's like, nope, now you're going into villain territory. Your mama, I'm not working with you.
yeah.
So I
No,
like
yeah.
that dynamic.
And then this is a little bit of a weird one, but what's your favorite Batman theme song?
My favorite Batman theme song? Whew. As much as I'm not the biggest fan of the movie, like the theme that plays when he's flying the bat plane through in Batman 89, that theme song is just great. Yeah.
That Danny Elfman theme is so good.
Yeah. He like
It's really good.
there's parts of it that I think gets a little The Prince music for me is better than the score, but that's just because Prince just leaned into whatever they wanted him to do.
Yeah.
But no, it's something about that, the one day race, my son and I were playing with some of his Imaginext toys years ago, and he had the Batwing, and I'm like, and I'm like, am I doing I don't even like that movie. Why am I singing that theme?
Oh,
So I think,
great theme.
but yeah, I think that's probably my favorite, even though I got a soft space in my heart for the Brave and the Bold theme song.
It's the bongos. It's the excessive
Yes.
use of bongos that just makes if that theme song doesn't have as much bongo play as it doesn't work.
Yeah. It's like they were like, I have a fever, and the only prescription is more bongos.
It's true. I noticed that when I rewatched the show, I noticed how every episode I was like, just bongos everywhere, and I kind of love it. So
the music in that show is so random.
It is, and God bless the Music Meister episode. So let's get into some of the deeper stuff here. So, what was your first introduction to Batman?
It's kind of weird because I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, I really want to say my first introduction to Batman is the Super Friends show. Like that's really kind of what I think it was. Because again, as we've mentioned, much older than you, so I'm the right age. I'm like 4 or 5 years old when Super Friends is actually on TV. And then my father, he was a younger dad. Like he was 21 when I was born, and he was one of those people who read comics as a kid. So he like here's a Batman comic. Here's this, here's that. So there's a lot of that he was not one of these guys like, well, comics are for, you know, I'm not going to let you read comics. He wanted me to read them.
Hmm.
So he was always willing to buy me a Batman comic or any comic I wanted. Um but I do think it's Super Friends, and then of course eventually the live action TV show, because you know when I'm young, unless your UHF station is where you would see Batman, and if your
Hmm.
UHF station didn't have it, you didn't see it. So you'd go like I'd go to a different city and like, oh hey, cool, that show's on, or Voltron's actually playing here. So it was much later, probably like 7, 8 years old before I saw the Adam West show.
Okay. Yeah, see, for me growing up, I mean, Super Friends and all that was on. It was on Boomerang, but
Yeah,
my mom or my grandma knew they could sit me down at a TV, turn on a Cartoon Network, and I would just sit there and watch Super Friends all damn day. So, yeah, the
yes,
Super Friends was a great cartoon. It was great.
yeah. It's interesting to go back. I mean, it doesn't hold up, but there's definitely
Yeah.
like it's funny. It's a cartoon that's written by people who don't know the comics. So like one of my favorite scenes is Batman, Robin. I think it's like Green Arrow and Superman are all in the Batmobile. And yes, I'm going to say that Superman is riding in the backseat of the Batmobile. It's like,
That makes sense.
why is Superman riding in the backseat of the Batmobile?
He could fly.
Yeah, yeah. It's just one of those weird, like, Soups, what? Did you just want to talk to them? I don't understand.
You tired, buddy? Need a nap. So let's talk a little bit about Alfred. Let's talk a little bit about Alfred. Alfred is a
Okay.
main staple in the Batman mythos. He has played a very important role. There always seems to be two different ways Alfred is portrayed. He's either portrayed as this kind of stern, involved sort of pseudo sidekick who taught him how to fight, or the other version is usually he's very warm, very comforting, kind of like the wise old janitor, father figure type Alfred. Of those two, which do you prefer?
I think it depends on what age Batman is, to be honest with you. I think a younger Batman needs a mentor to help him get through with what he's trying to do. But I
Mm,
think as Batman gets farther along, especially when you start bringing Robins in, you need an Alfred who's going to keep him in check
mhm,
and be that heart. And there's like this really cool. It was in a recent issue of Nightwing where Dick Grayson as Robin makes a huge mistake
mhm,
and gets nearly taken down, and Batgirl has to save him. And Batman's going to walk in there and give him what for, and Alfred stops him and is like, "No." And he's like, "No, I have to." He's like, "No." He's like, "That boy does not need a lecture. He doesn't need you yelling at him. What he needs is to know that everything's going to be okay, and you have to make sure you be the person to do that."
mhm,
And it was just this really cool moment. And Alfred just tells him, like, if that's not what you're here for, go back in the cave and I'll take care of this. But if you're going to go in there to be encouraging, go in there and be encouraging. And like, that's the Alfred Batman year 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 needs. So did that answer your question?
no, that's a much better answer than I thought I was going to get. That that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Alfred's one of those characters he's always exactly what the writers need him to be. He's kind of the
Oh, I lost you, bro.
you there?
I am now. Sorry. You were blank for a second.
Okay, what's the last thing you hear me say?
That's a really good answer.
Yeah. Mhm. That's because I think Alfred kind of works that way where he's the thing that the right to be what the writers need him to be in the moment. He's there to provide whatever counsel is applicable to what's happening in that particular moment.
Yeah. And it's a kind of weird, not to lean into this too much, but if Batman's the dad, Alfred almost has to be like the mother figure in a way of like the nurturing side, because you're not going to get that from Batman.
No, that's true. That's very true. So what would you say is something about Batman that just drives you nuts? Anything, no matter what it is. What is something about Batman the character or the Batman lore that just bugs you?
It's going to be really counterintuitive because I've gone after the Snyderverse for making Batman a killer. But I understand as a writer of comics and having longevity of storylines, he can't kill his villains.
Mhm.
But I feel like there definitely has to be a line of like, all right.
Right.
How many more times does Joker have to escape and kill thousands of innocent people before it's like, I don't know if I have to be the person to murder this guy, but he needs to not be around anymore.
How has he not gotten the death penalty yet?
Yes. And I know that like I said, it's comics and
Yeah.
and Batman's been around for almost 90 years now. So I don't think originally in the 50s, 60s when they kind of because originally he did kill people. If
He
he
did.
would
He kills the Joker in his first
yeah.
appearance.
So I think like I get it, but there definitely has to be a like again, I don't know if he should be the one who kills him, but definitely like I've got all the evidence, I've got all the things. We're gonna like put you in a place that there's no way you can get out of, and I'm gonna sit here and watch them end your life. I'm gonna be the priest on your death row because I want to make sure you don't come back and cause more problems. I think that's not so much at Batman per se, but that whole no killing thing, it does, especially when you get like Red Hood, who's like, how could you not kill this guy after he killed me?
Yeah.
Like, what's it going to take for you to just end this dude? And I think that there's something to be said. I get the whole if you murder a murderer, you haven't reduced the number of murderers in the room. I get
Yeah.
it. But there also has to be a level of okay, you don't want to kill Joker, but you need to make sure he is done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's probably the thing.
Yeah, like it's easy to understand the moral standpoint they're taking with the no killing rule. It's like I get it. I do get it. But yeah, it does and also it does kind of forces the writers to have to be a bit more creative because it's super easy to write a story where Batman just offs the dude and then bam, he's not a villain anymore. Like it's no longer a
Yeah.
problem. So it does kind of, like I said, it does kind of force them to be a bit more creative storytelling wise. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't make as much sense as I think they think it does.
Yeah. And I think also like then you have to create new villains if he starts killing his and which is
Yeah,
cool for like Image Comics that started in the 90s or, a book that started 4 years ago. You just keep churning out people, but you know, it's the whole, you know, should you have killed Killmonger? Well, yeah, you should kill that dude cuz he's going to F up Wakanda if you don't. But
right.
man, we wish Michael B. Jordan was still around those movies.
Oh yeah, he was so good. He
So,
was so good.
yeah.
So then let me ask you this. What would you say has been Batman's greatest failure?
Batman's greatest failure?
Yeah.
I think Tower of Babel is his greatest failure. Like, how
Really?
did you, the dude who quadruple overthinks everything, allow somebody to steal your shit? Like, that's the one where I'm like, bro,
Mm.
you literally have files to kill, eliminate, stop the power hitters of Justice League, your entire team, and someone got to them and stole them and used them. Like that to me is ludicrous.
Yeah.
I know it makes a great story, but I'm like, I need more on how that was able to happen. Like that to me, like if it was like Robin sold, like, like kind of the Karen Page thing with Daredevil, where
Mhm.
Karen Page is a strung out drug addict and she sells Daredevil's identity to the Kingpin
Mhm.
for crack or cocaine or whatever the crap that story was. Like something like that. Like, Jason Todd, Ra's al Ghul resurrected him, and then, you know, hey, do this, and I'll actually bring you, something more than I was able to hack your stuff and get it, or I
Yeah.
got in there and stole it. That to me is one of those weird. I know you need that, but I needed something more to that. Um, but I did like because I mean, once that stuff's out, I mean, they pretty much kick him out of the Justice League. So that's where I think, to me, that's probably one of his biggest failures. Um, because I think any other failure has been soft rebooted away.
Ah,
So, the Dick Grayson thing for the longest time, I thought was like, bro, like that's another one of those, like, Batman. No, you're just being a dick, man.
you're just being a dick. The Tower of Babel thing's interesting because I actually really, really like how they do it in the
Sorry.
animated movie. You're good. The animated movie, Justice League Doom,
Yes.
to where it's something he really couldn't have planned for, and that's Mirror Master and that's Vandal Savage, two things that aren't in his wheelhouse. It was because like, how does somebody get in there? Well, mirrors with Mirror Master. Like it's like, oh, okay, no, that actually kind of explains that away then. And he wouldn't have anything to do with Vandal Savage because at this point, Vandal Savage is an unknown entity. So I thought that was a good way of handling that.
I thought it was really cool, except what is that rear view mirror looking at? There is a gigantic jet engine on the back of that car.
And I'm not getting your point.
The rearview mirror doesn't look at anything. It just looks at the console behind him. There's no, it doesn't. The first time I watched that movie, I was like, what does that do? Like, he's in a cockpit.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Like, what's he actually looking? Yeah, no, that's a great one. You know what? That's fair. It was there because they needed it for Mirror Master.
Yes, the idea of Mirror Master getting in there that way is cool. I would think he would have better security on the computer that he couldn't hack it, but that was cool. But I did have that moment of like, why does he have a rear view mirror? There's a jet engine behind him. There's no clearance.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I didn't even think about that. That's totally fair. Because because anybody watching that's like, oh, it's a car. It's got a rear view mirror. Of course it does. And we just don't think about it again.
Yeah, maybe the side view. I'll give you side view mirrors.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
So
all I think about is everybody listening to this episode going like, fuck, he's right.
Yeah, this is the moment in the Big Bang Theory where they found out about the whole Raiders of the Lost Ark plot hole, and everyone just kind of goes, "Oh." So is there a, because I'm personally for the most part a big fan of a lot of the animated movies and stuff they've done. So is there one of those animated stories that you think would maybe work really well live action, or is there maybe like a story arc that they haven't that could be done really well as a movie that hasn't been touched yet?
I sent it to you, Batman the Cult.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think Batman the Cult is one of those, like, I think we talked about it in that particular episode. Like, I don't know how you do it and not skirt that offending freaking everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that is, and I think the other part of that too is at the time of that storyline, you had never seen Batman broken.
Right.
Now that's happened a little more in the books between Court of Owls and Bane and the whole Thomas Wayne Batman City of Bane storyline that happened about 2-3 years ago. That's kind of happened more often, but at the time, like, that had never been seen. No one had ever broken him, let alone brainwashed him into joining their thing. Not even my favorite Ra's al Ghul could do that. Like, he would join in temporarily, but then go like, no, this is too much. I think that would be a very interesting delve into the metal that is Batman, his internal, like the metal of the man. And I think that's interesting thing to explore, whether it's like, that's your Pattinson movie 3, or you do an animated style. My only thing I'd be scared with the animation is anytime they do some of those darker things, they pull back on it too much.
Yeah.
So you're never going to get, the cult actually turning on him and killing Blackfire.
Well, and I've got a little disillusioned with the animated stuff lately because the last few they've done have been just awful. I mean, the Injustice movie was abysmal. It was borderline unwatchable, and Hush was an absolute fiasco. So I'm not. I'm a little disillusioned with the animated stuff, but live action, I could definitely see that working in the Robert Pattinson Batman world, like especially with the way the Batman ended. But yeah, like we said when we talked about it, it's like you'd be hard pressed to do that and not piss off 2/3 of the world.
Yeah. You'd have to like I think I said it before. You'd have to make it that he's using that persona to do what he's doing, and not that he actually is that person,
Yeah.
which is kind of hinted at in that comic, but not fully explored. Um,
Well, you'd probably have to do it too, where it's not like Christianity. It'd have to be just some weird voodoo shit or something. But even then, you're
well,
still pissing off a lot of people.
I think you could do it Christianity. I don't think you can say I'm a Baptist preacher or I'm a Presbyterian. He's just a preacher, a pastor
Yeah,
of some church who is doing these things. I don't know if you can make him a priest. Catholics have already got a bad name right now with their
a little bit,
things, but
a little bit. So let's wrap up with just kind of this one last question here, which is what is something they haven't done yet you would like to see done with Batman, whether it's in a movie or a comic book? What is something you would like to see done that has not yet, like just anything that you like, I would like to see them do X with a Batman story.
I mean, besides bring Dick Grayson as Robin and then Nightwing, no, no, I like. You know what I would love to see in live action that even I don't even think fan films have done, and they started doing it in the comics. They've done, I think, one or two of the cartoons this way. It's take the concept of Batman and put him in a different time period.
Mhm.
You know, like Gotham by Gaslight, or I mean, Batman Ninja is an example. It's a horrible example, but it's an example. But
Not a good
just
example.
like do what?
It's not a good example.
Yeah. But I mean,
It's
my
not.
point of like, go to the, colonial America, and this thing happens to him and he becomes Batman of that time frame. Or, I don't know if medieval Batman works. I mean, it looks cool, but I think playing with that, if you're going to do Elseworlds and other dimensions and give me 18 different Batman throughout various live actions at the same time, we can do some weird HBO Max 6 episode show of Batman in colonial times, or, you know, Batman in the future, not Batman Beyond Future, but like, that storyline. I think something like that would be a lot of fun. It doesn't have to be a live action movie or a cartoon, but yeah, just like a 6 episode live action show of like Batman, 1845, or something like that, where you just see, this guy who returns from, maybe he returns home from the Civil War and his lands and his family have been killed, and he goes on this weird revenge thing, and before he does that, he gets training in the Far East, or whatever. I think that would be fun. That would be something different and interesting, and it would allow you to kind of redo slash update his entire rogues gallery
Mhm.
and make it cool, but not like, oh, they've redone Joker again because now it's 2010, not 1990. You could just do that whole thing, and I think it would be very interesting in my opinion. That's I mean, I'm not that time frame might be fun, but just doing that would be cool. Like even what was that? What was that? Star Wars Visions?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Like do something like that with Batman, where we just see
Yeah.
him in different eras or different, like even that would be cool. I just think that's the next step in my opinion with some of these superheroes, because unlike a lot like Captain America, he's he was born in World War II. I
Yeah.
don't know if you could create a Captain America except for World War II. But Batman, the concept of somebody seeking justice for the wrongs done to his family, that is a timeless and eternal concept that can be put anywhere.
All right, yeah, I'm because like they're working on one right now. It's called like Batman Azteca, and it's gonna be like a Batman that's like in this ancient tribe in Mexico. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, give me that. That I'm into that. That's cool. That's a neat idea.
It's cool. I mean, it's like they did that with The Crow for a while, where like remember the movie, the cartoon, the comic. I'm sorry, the comic, The Crow.
I know The Crow.
Okay, yeah, okay. I think they did one where I mean it would be different people. I don't know if I've ever done other time periods. They should, but that's something like that where that idea of vengeance or revenge or wanting to make again it could be anywhere.
Yeah, I'd definitely be into just about any of that. So guys, that has been us spending the last half hour really getting to know Matthew Hasso as a Batman fan. And now you guys know a little bit more about us and how we work and how we think when it comes to our love for this character of the Dark Knight, and all of you love this character as well. And so we always want to know what you guys think. So let us know on Twitter. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at We Are the Batman. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mike Shea.
And you can find me on Twitter at Mr. J Ninja.
And if you guys ever want to know or have any ideas for a new episode, or if you have any questions you want to ask us, make sure you go to our Twitter. There's a link on our Twitter that'll take you to a Google form where you can submit all that stuff. We're looking to do another Q&A episode, so get your questions in whenever you can. And we'll see you guys again next time here on the next episode of We Are the Batman. Same bat time, same bat podcast channel.